Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today we are diving into a topic that hits incredibly close to home for so many of us in our community: navigating the gaps, the guesswork, and let's be honest, the frustration that often comes with women's healthcare. We're talking about chronic conditions like endometriosis, PCOS, PMDD, didn't know what that was, thank you Molly, and perimenopause, areas where medicine has historically left women searching for answers on their own.
And if you've ever sat in a doctor's office feeling overwhelmed, trying to explain your pain, or wondering if your symptoms are all in your head, today's guest is about to change the game for you. We are sitting down with Molly Dewey, the brilliant co-founder of Romy, an AI-powered women's health companion built specifically to help us track complex symptoms, prep for appointments, and advocate for ourselves.
And this isn't about replacing the human touch, it's about empowering it. Imagine having a tool that takes massive amounts of complex clinical research and translates it into clear, plain language right when you're experiencing a symptom flare.
In this episode, Molly shares the powerful origin story behind the app, how we can use data to overcome medical gaslighting, and how they are weaving deep emotional support into the digital experience so you never have to feel isolated in your health journey again. Get ready to feel incredibly empowered, but first, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
If you've listened to the podcast for a while, you know I used to be the biggest skeptic about supplements. I thought, I can definitely get everything I need from food. But then I started to realize that high quality, clean supplements weren't about replacing a healthy diet. They were about optimizing my health in a way I never thought possible. For instance, I discovered what so many women eventually do. I was deficient in magnesium. Now that it's part of my routine, I'm sleeping better and I feel absolutely amazing. It made me realize that quality matters more than anything.
When it comes to taking supplements, ingredient integrity is a must for us both, and that's why we trust Smidge. Smidge offers a small line of foundational supplements, core nutrients, including 100% whole food vitamins, and digestive support for people who prioritize real food, but know even the best diets have gaps. They obsess over ingredient integrity, crafting minimal, clean products with zero additives and rich nutrients meticulously sourced from around the world. We both love Smidge's magnesium, but with my chronic gut health issues, Smidge's digestive support is my tried and true. I use their digestive enzymes every single day before meals, and it has been a game changer in post-meal bloat, fatigue, and overall digestion for me. If you have any digestive issues, their enzymes, including the original and HCl plus enzymes, are a must try.
Smidge just dropped some incredible whole food supplements that we've been loving. First up, their Kakadu Plum. Most vitamin C supplements are just mass-produced synthetic chemicals, but this is the real deal from Australia. It's pure, whole food vitamin C that your body actually knows how to use for glowing skin and a rock-solid immune system.
I'm also obsessed with their Australian emu oil. You won't find this at a typical health store. It's the best source of vitamin K2, MK4, which is a total game changer for women's bone and heart health. While plant-based K2 is hard for your body to process, Smidge's emu oil is already pre-converted, so your body absorbs it instantly.
So, if you want a brand that is truly backed by research, derived from sustainable principles, and only wants to provide you with the freshest, highest quality nutrients, it's Smidge.
Head over to getsmidge.com to check out their magnesium, emu oil, Kakadu Plum, and their fantastic digestive enzymes. And don't forget to use our code GOLDIV10 at checkout for 10% off.
And now to this episode of the Ivy Unleashed podcast. Welcome back to Ivy Unleashed. Today is an awesome day. It sounds like I smoked a pack of cigarettes. I promise I did not. I just got back from New Orleans, so forgive me for my voice today. But I'm not going to be doing most of the talking. It's going to be Molly Dewey. Welcome to Ivy Unleashed.
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope we don't have too much construction noise in the background. Your drill upstairs.
That's fine. So Molly is a co-founder of a new company that we are so excited to talk about, because what we talk about on this podcast is women's health. And there are huge gaps in what we know and how to get answers and getting gaslit at the doctor's office and feeling like you're crazy because you have all kinds of things happening in your body with your hormones and your mental health and your ovaries and your uterus, and we don't know anything about it. And so it feels like what we're about to talk today is just pivotal timing I know so many women are going to wish this came to fruition a long time ago, but thank you, Molly, for creating Romy. We want to talk to you about this app that's going to help women everywhere. But before we jump into it, we always like to start with a little instant impact. So if you could leave our listeners with like your hit home message, what would you want to share with them?
Yeah, I love that question. I was thinking about this morning after I dropped my kids at preschool. And this is something actually that I think has been coming up kind of organically for me. Like I was at the doctor the other day and I actually said this to her, what I'm about to say to you guys, because she asked the question. She sat down with me at the OB and she's like, "Do you mind if I use AI to take notes?" And she was like, "I hate AI, but it does make my life a little easier." And I was like, "Why do you hate AI?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, I don't trust it. It just feels like this kind of racket. It's just trendy." And I was like, "No, no, no. I need to tell you, especially as a woman, do not shy away from AI." And obviously, what we're building with Romy is AI, and we'll talk about that today. But I feel like the biggest takeaway I would love for anyone to get from this is for women to not be freaked out by AI. I get that there's a lot of it out there that, feels like it's changing, it's evolving so fast. It can feel really intimidating. But if we do not test it out and learn how to use it and make ourselves part of the conversation while it is evolving, we are going to get left out again. And we're not going to be considered. Our needs are not going to be considered. And it's going to be in the hands of, old white guys. And that's not what we need. We need to be part of this conversation and advocate for ourselves. And that's really what Romy does too as AI. She really allows you to advocate for yourself, be your own researcher, but she gives you the tools to do that. So that's kind of my big takeaway, I think, for today is look at the ways that AI, like Romy, can help you in your life and make it part of your life and take the time to learn it and have conversations with people about it. And if there are things that scare you, learn about those things, because this is not going anywhere. And it's really, really important that we as women do not leave ourselves out of this conversation.
I've never thought about that comparison of women's health and AI. And when you think about women's health, all of the research is not, they didn't start doing women's research until what, like years and decades and a long time.
Women were not included, Brooke, in clinical studies until 1993.
Yes.
That's the year I was born.
That's insane.
And you're young.
Now you think about AI and what is the research with AI? Who is in charge of AI? I mean, I watch the Today Show and they have segments on AI and it's all white, older men that are doing the talking and the research and the power behind it. So let's dive into what Romy is and how AI is integrated with her.
Yes. Okay. So Romy is an AI-powered women's health companion built specifically for the conditions that medicine has kind of historically gotten wrong. Conditions like endometriosis, PCOS, which is now called PMOS, actually, PMDD, perimenopause, mast cell activation syndrome, things like that. And it combines clinically grounded health guidance and longitudinal symptom tracking, and then these actionable tools like visit prep, provider summaries, advocacy letters. She'll analyze, patterns in your symptoms and what you log and what you talk to her about. And she puts it all into this very single, private, always available companion. Essentially, we say she's kind of like your bestie who's also a gynecologist. And she meets women where you are, whether that's in between appointments or in the middle of a symptom flare, sitting in a waiting room, trying to figure out what to ask your provider. I think we've all kind of been there. So that's really what she is. And, I think it's easy to simplify it and say, Romy is, ChatGPT for women's health. That's a really easy way to explain it. But I also want to make sure people know that she's not just a chat bot with a pink color scheme, which, I mean, she does have a great color scheme.
She does. She really does.
I had way too much fun with her branding, but she's really this purpose-built health platform, like this whole ecosystem with architecture designed specifically around the ways that women have been failed by the healthcare system, by health research, and also by general purpose AI.
Okay.
So I'm going to a doctor's office and I tell them and I have the appointment. Am I uploading the after visit summary to her, or am I able to record the entire visit and she analyzes it for me? Like, what does this actually look like for the woman post or pre-appointment?
So it can look like so many different things. And this is the beauty of AI. And what has been really fun too in building this and growing this is seeing how women are using her in ways that I didn't even necessarily think about when we set out to build this. And so, yes, Brooke, to your point, whether you want to upload an after visit summary from your MyChart account, you can screenshot it, you can upload a document, and she will kind of analyze it and put those notes. And what's really cool about her is that, and I say her because I don't like it.
I love it.
Her. Romy's our girl.
Because again, we want her to feel like your friend. You know, she's here, she's on your team, she's on your side. She's, not a person, but we'll personify her a bit.
We love her. We don't know her yet, but we love her. We're going to get to know her.
She's cool. Romy's cool. But so, yeah, you can do the whole after visit summary thing. And so every time you have a conversation with Romy, she's got this great memory if you're signed in. And sign in is completely safe, completely encrypted, completely HIPAA compliant. All your data is anonymized, so it's not something you need to worry about there. But so any conversation you have, she's storing that information. You can just, whether it's an actual after visit summary that lists all these things, all the medications you're taking, all the recommendations from your doctor, things like that, she'll log that. So even say in a MyChart after visit summary, the doctor has recommended, that you start magnesium. She will often ask, she'll say, I see that your doctor recommended magnesium. Do you want me to put a reminder push notification on your phone to take this?
Wow.
Yes,
And you
Romy,
can
I do.
choose to opt in or opt out of that if you want. And then she'll add magnesium to your treatment plan. So that the next time you go to the doctor and they're like, can you list all your supplements? I just had to do this last week. And I'm one of those people who's on like 75 supplements. And the poor woman, she's like, a nurse taking this down. She's like, spell that? What? Oh my God, it's taking forever. But it's great because I have my whole list in the Romy app. It's not like I'm forgetting anything. But so then on the pre-visit side of things, Brooke, you can, I think a lot of us go into doctor's appointments knowing something's wrong or something feels off. And then you get in there and you kind of feel on the spot, or you forget to ask certain questions,
You
or
feel
they'll
rushed.
say, yes, you feel rushed, right? Unfortunately, doctor's appointments are not long enough these days, and that's not the doctor's fault. That's a bad system. But you'll say to them, I've been having these headaches, right? Or I keep getting UTIs. I don't know what's going on. And they'll say, well, when was the last one? And you're like, I don't know. I have a lot going on. I have a job. I have, kids. I have, I don't know when the last one, I just know that I had it. But if you are talking to Romy and, it's kind of a daily check-in thing or whatever, Romy can tell you when your last 5 headaches were or your last 3 UTIs were. And it's cool too, because then right before you go to the doctor, you can say, hey, I've got an OB appointment coming up, or I'm going to see my PCP. And she'll say, great, let's put together a prep sheet and here are all the questions to ask. Here are all the patterns I've noticed. I've noticed that you logged, a UTI in your last 3 luteal phases, or, the last 3 times you ovulated, for example. And so we can talk to your doctor about that pattern, and she'll kind of help you prepare for that appointment.
So are women supposed to, every time they have symptoms, log it in the app? Are they... is this something that each week you're kind of logging in how you feel so that they recognize these symptoms and questions to ask for the prep visit? Or how does that work in between visits?
So if you want to utilize Romy to her full potential, you absolutely have that option. You can, for me, I like to have a log of everything. I'm a data girl through and through. I want to see everything that's going on. I want to know, exactly what day of my cycle I'm on at all times. And so before Romy, I used my Aura ring for that. And I loved checking in and, recording when my period started and checking how my sleep was. And I would record things last summer when we had just started building Romy, I was going through a whole host of health issues, and I knew I needed to be tracking my symptoms. And so I was doing that through the Aura app. There are people like me that love that, and they want to see it all kind of in one space and sort of have their own health dashboard, so to speak. And Romy can absolutely do that. And so what that looks like is you can just literally type into her, hey, I have a headache today. And she might say, okay, how is it on a scale of 1 to 5 or whatever? Or you can just leave it at that. Or you can just go into your health chart and log a symptom. Or you can use her more like you would ChatGPT when you're just wondering about something, hey, why do I have another UTI? I feel like I just had one 2 weeks ago, or hey, I'm curious about GLP-1s. I'm seeing them all over my Instagram and I want to know what the research is on this peptide. Is this something that might work for me? You can use her as little or as much she can be as robust of a companion, or just, your quick, instead of Googling, you're going to get a better answer from her kind of thing in your pocket.
Romy's about to know way too much about me.
Oh, Brooke's going to be so obsessed with Romy. She was going to report back on Romy.
Please do.
Which I want to too. And I think what's important is, our job, Brooke and I, is to empower women, to take better care of themselves, right? And make it as easy as possible. And this just aligns so well because I'm thinking about the more we know and understand about ourselves. I just think of us in this doctor's office because so many women, we're sitting in the waiting room, we get a little nervous, right? Because we know we're going to be rushed. We just took our kids to school, got ready, did all the things, and then we get there and then our brain's not working. So having this list of questions is going to be so helpful. But then I think about the gaslighting. I'm imagining myself there's a specific doctor, Brooke and I have both seen, that she really likes to minimize whatever you're talking
She
about.
told me I should see I should go to a pain management clinic. That really threw me over the edge.
Yeah.
Romy would be on my side.
But what I worry about is okay, we've got this app that we're using and I can just see medical doctors being like, oh, okay, it's another app. What are we doing? So I'm just thinking how do we use this for the gaslighting, right? And what comes to mind is that medical evidence that you have in Romy, right? You have all the medical studies that we can get informed about. So when someone's trying to learn more, to feel like they're more informed, they have more education in their back pocket before they go into this room and they're really intimidated by somebody, how can we use it to just educate ourselves? Because we got Google stuff, but I'm curious, Romy seems to be filling some more gaps for women.
Absolutely. So I think you touched on a couple things in that question, which is, first of all, there is this dismissal that happens a lot of times, specifically with women for whatever reason. And it really needs to be addressed. We know there are studies out there, if a man and a woman show up in the emergency room at the exact same time, and they both rate their pain on a scale of 1 to 10, they both say it's an 8. Mm-hmm. Men are far more likely to get the good stuff, the Vicodin, the oxycodone, whatever it is, the real heavy hitter painkillers, than women who they're going to give Tylenol to. Mm-hmm. Because for whatever reason, women are not believed. Our pain is not taken seriously. There is just this inherent bias there. And so it was really important when we sat down and built Romy to put in what's literally called an anti-dismissal architecture, where she is going to validate what you are experiencing and what you're telling her you're feeling, first and foremost. And then she's going to really click into these condition modules that she's been built on. And so we've got, I want to say 20 or 22 conditions right now that she is literally an expert in: endometriosis, PCOS, PMDD, a number of them. And each module is essentially a clinician vetted reasoning framework specifically for those conditions. So it contains diagnostic criteria, common symptom presentations, evidence-based treatment pathways, known comorbidities, and really importantly, explicit instructions to validate rather than minimize symptoms. So if somebody, comes into Romy and they're telling her about pelvic pain or exhaustion or irregular cycles or GI symptoms, Romy isn't just pulling from a generic AI brain trained on the whole of the internet. She's actually activating a specialized clinical reasoning scaffold for the conditions that might actually fit that presentation. And that changes everything, right? Because right now, the AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, they're reasoning from the wide open internet soup. And what we're doing is reasoning from a very purpose-built playbook for women's health conditions instead of just trying to kind of auto-complete the statistically most likely answer, if that makes sense. And also we have to be really careful to not swing too far in the other direction and create an AI that over-diagnoses everything, right?
Yeah. Right, because that's the fear is you Google and you are convinced you have cancer. So let's talk about that. Like Romy is going to give you more specifics because they know your whole persona and everything you've put in. Is that kind of the idea of it?
Absolutely. The more you use her, the more you talk to her, the more she knows you and is tracking your patterns and gets to know your own body, right? Like this is where I think it can be tricky with generic cycle trackers, for example, right? They think everyone should be on a 28-day cycle. And in a perfect world, we all would be, but that's not really how most of our bodies work. It's really important for Romy to learn your body and your patterns and be working off of that. And, to your point, Brooke, like this is this huge problem online right now. You can type in fatigue and bloating and suddenly TikTok thinks you have 17 different autoimmune diseases, right? And so that's where Romy's really structured diagnostic reasoning process comes in, because before she's even going to start talking about conditions, she's going to classify what physiological systems are potentially at play. Is it hormonal? Is it inflammatory? Is it metabolic? Is it neurological, gastrointestinal, whatever it may be? Then she's going to look for the converging evidence across a bunch of different symptom categories before surfacing any possibilities. But she's not going to talk in this kind of jargon that I'm using right now. She's going to talk to you like you're sitting down having a glass of wine with your best friend, and she's going to explain it to you in a way that you really understand. And I think that gets back to that second part of your question, Dre, which is like, this can also feel that the dismissal part sucks. And then also when you are armed with information, it can also feel really overwhelming. It can feel confusing. And there's also that piece where I do think some doctors are like happy to have you bring in information and others are like, stop, get off. You always hear get off WebMD. This is not helping you. I think they're coming around to, okay, patients are going to have AI information when they come and sit in our offices, right? And hopefully that's part of our strategy is getting physicians and clinicians on board with Romy and feeling like, okay, at least this one's going to be beneficial.
Yeah, and make this the norm that we've got educated patients coming in, they're advocating for themselves. Like this is the norm instead of an annoyance, because they do have a time constraint. But also there's two things I want to get back to. One, you said something about an advocacy form or something, which I really want to hear more about this. And two is like, there are a lot of physicians out there that want to hear from you, and they do want you to advocate for yourselves, and they will listen.
They also need the information. So if you have something that has all of your supplements, your routine, where you've gone before, like it makes your appointment so much more efficient versus like, let me try and recall when my last UTI was, what my symptoms last month was. Like it almost, I think, makes the appointment more efficient.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, ideally, absolutely, right? We want to expedite the process and we want to maximize their time if they're only going to be given 15 or 20 minutes with you. And I think it's really important to, Dre, you kind of just mentioned it before, but like Romy is not here to villainize doctors, right? Doctors are awesome. They work so hard. They have to know so much about so many things. And it's really hard in 4 years of medical school or however many years, if you're an NP or whatever. They're not going to know everything about everything. That doesn't mean they're bad or, they're subjected to a healthcare system that doesn't give them enough time with patients that they really want to. And so we're just trying to help make their jobs a little bit easier here. But we certainly don't want to, knock on doctors.
It feels like a collaborative approach instead of like villainizing AI, villainizing physicians. Like we're trying to make it a better experience for everyone with this. So I think that's really cool that's your approach, because you're not trying to replace a physician. You're trying to help women feel cared for the way that they deserve, right? Like there are so many unanswered questions. And I don't know how much you know of Brooke's story, but it's been so many doctors, like over 50 doctors. And she has said to me before, like, can you come with me? Like, I'm starting to feel crazy. Like, I'm starting to feel really overwhelmed going in and having to explain my story all over again. And so I feel like you are streamlining her appointments into becoming more of like a, here it is. And do you want me to send it to you ahead of time? Like, I don't know what you need because like we're gonna run out of time here. So I love that you're helping that process.
Well, and really, honestly, I think Emily and I, when we sat down and sort of envisioned what Romy could be, a big part of why we needed to build her was because, like Brooke's experience, too many women feel crazy before they feel cared for.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's so messed up, right?
Which makes their conditions and symptoms worse. Like she's going to have a panic attack before she even goes in there. And so it's just like making everything else flare up because she's had such traumatic experiences in these physician offices. And so I want to talk a little bit more about the advocacy part. Like you had mentioned some type of form or something or some part of Romy, because I feel like this is a piece that will be really helpful for women.
So advocacy is really close to my heart because for whatever reason, women, we have a hard time often speaking up for ourselves and standing up for ourselves. And, I think that a lot of that comes from, I'm an eldest daughter, people pleaser, I don't like to rock the boat too much. And especially you get in a clinical setting, right? And it feels like this person, this doctor, or whomever you're seeing is the expert. You don't want to question them. You don't want to make it seem like you're stepping on any toes, right? But you also need to talk about what's happening in your body. And so, I remember when we sat down and we were starting all of this, Emily even was saying, and I don't think she'll mind me sharing this story, that when she was pregnant, both times, she used to have to bring her husband, Mike, to the doctor's appointments with her because the doctor would say, or how are you feeling? And she'd be like, oh, I'm good. And Mike would be like, no, you're not. You're not good. He would have to speak up for her because she was just kind of like, oh, I don't want to bother the doctor with this. And it's like, you're growing a human. You have to bother the doctor in case something isn't right. And so Mike would have to be her advocate. And that's not always possible, right? Our husbands can't always be in the room with us, and it shouldn't have to be that way. And so there are a couple different ways Romy can help you become your own advocate. So first is, just on our About page, when you hop on the app, whether it's on desktop or on mobile, before you even log in, you can scroll down and there are all of these. There's a whole list of advocacy questions, things that you can ask that are just going to help, whether it's like pushing for further testing, for example, right? If you're getting kind of blown off, like, oh, it might be this, but probably not, right? It's probably not low vitamin D, to be like, well, could we actually run a test, a vitamin D lab and see? And it kind of empowers you, enables you with a list of questions you can ask and ways to push back. But then there are also, tools that provider visit prep packet we talked about earlier, where you can even let Romy know, I'm a little shy when it comes to this, or I might not be my own best advocate. Help me frame these questions in a way and give me follow-up questions if the doctor pushes back on me.
Oh, that's good.
How can I, right? And so she'll do that within that, prep packet that you have when you want to go in, whether it's you print it out or on your phone. Yeah. And then there's a whole other host too of things like on our app and on our site, you can find clinical trials that you can participate in. You can find petitions to sign if you want to, be furthering women's health research, because we all really ideally would be pushing for more of that from like a legislative standpoint. We really need to be getting studies done on, all of this GLP-1 stuff, for example, these agonists. They're finding that it might be really beneficial for all these different things, like for PMOS, for example. Anecdotally, women with PMOS are taking these peptides and it's doing really, really well. It's helping a lot of them, but we need a study on that. We can't just go off of clinical data alone. And so there are petitions out there that you can sign. And so you can advocate for others and advocate for research as well.
Cool.
What about community support?
Yes. So that's the other thing. When we first set out to build Romy, we actually weren't in the AI space at all. AI was like maybe something down the road that we would incorporate. Initially, Emily and I had this vision of taking on Reddit, taking down Reddit from the women's health standpoint, because so Emily and I both have PMDD. We've both had it for about a decade.
Can you explain what that is?
Yes, PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. A lot of people like to, I think, oversimplify what it means by saying it's just really bad PMS. And in a sense, that's true. It is really bad PMS, but it's essentially a condition wherein your luteal phase, anywhere from like 7 to 14 days leading up to your period, what you have these normal sort of standard hormonal fluctuations where your estrogen goes up, your estrogen goes down, your progesterone goes up, your progesterone goes down. And for most women, it's kind of this like these little up and down, they ride the waves pretty consistently. And when you have PMDD, they're suggesting now that it's actually more of a neuroinflammatory thing in the brain where your brain responds to those hormonal changes much stronger than the average woman. And so our dips look like this. They're really up and they're really down. You're really high and you're really low. And you essentially have the 7 to 14 day window of dysphoria before your cycle starts, or before your period starts, I should say. And so dysphoria can look really different. Like Emily's presents different than mine does. Unfortunately for me, mine is anxiety, irritability, and sometimes rage, which I've been, working over a decade now to get this under control. But I can tell your community it is the single hardest condition. It's the single hardest thing in my life that I'm navigating every month, because if it's 14 days,
That's half the month.
this is half of your life.
And then you have your period.
You
So you have one good week.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of your
It's
month.
really hard. And it's like, it's the hardest thing on my marriage too, because like mine's irritability, it's mood swings, it's rage. I almost wish I had the kind where I would just kind of cry and get really depressed for 2 weeks.
What do they recommend for that? Like what would Romy tell us?
Well, so standard treatment for PMDD right now is an SSRI.
Mm-hmm.
Low dose usually depends on your provider and depends on your body. Romy, if you were talking to her about PMDD right now, she would sort of say, I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose this, but something to speak with your physician about would be experimenting with, do you want to take an SSRI every day of the month? Do you want to take it only in your luteal phase when symptoms present? There's a growing body of research that saffron may be really, really beneficial and could even replace SSRIs. For some folks, a combination of SSRIs and a birth control pill can be really helpful. I did that for a while. I had pretty adverse reactions to the birth control pill and then started having babies, so I didn't need it anymore. Then you can kind of go down the rabbit hole of more holistic or functional medicine treatments, things like acupuncture, supplementing with things like with magnesium, L-theanine can be really helpful. I could talk about supplements all day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm trying to remember
The community
how we
support.
get on the PMDD topic.
Oh yeah. Well, before you go into the community support, I just want to say the fact that I don't know what PMDD is as a woman who is friends with a lot of women just shows like how, and I'm in the health and wellness field. It just shows how like women's health, it's not at the forefront of what I even know. Right. I just think it's so, I just love this conversation so much because I feel like there's so much to understand about what women are going through in order for us to have more compassion for them, in order for us to understand if they say they're in pain, and they should get the hard stuff too. It's like I'm in that same wheelhouse of not knowing these things that are so important.
And I think the reason that a lot of us don't know is there are multiple reasons for that, right? But I do think there's still a bit of a stigma around talking about our health and our bodies, and God forbid saying the word vagina out loud
Or period.
and talking about problems with our vaginas or our ovaries or our uterus or whatever. And we've all got them and we're all kind of silently suffering. And that's why I think so many women have turned to spaces like Reddit, which has been incredible. Like whether it's for PMDD over the last decade of my life, I'm for a long time have been like a Reddit troll where I don't comment myself, but I pour through the threads.
Same.
And then I had a baby and I was up breastfeeding in the middle of the night, pouring through postpartum anxiety and depression threads, wondering if I was normal, what was going on with me. because these things there is for whatever we're embarrassed, I guess. It feels, I think there's something with being a woman where you want to be perfect all the time and you want your body to work the way it's supposed to.
And you're
all the time.
confused. So like, of course you're going to Reddit and looking for support because you're like,
And
I need it.
yes, and Reddit is great for that because it's anonymous and you feel kind of safe and kind of protected. You can be a troll like I was and just read, or you can post and you can say, I've got this stuff going on, but nobody knows who you are. You've got some weird, username like purple amethyst 2 3, and nobody knows where you are or how old you are, or that you're crying in your nursing chair while you're posting, right? And so it's this really safe feeling space online where people can post about stuff that they've got going on or see what other people have got going on, and they can crowdsource information. And so that's what we originally wanted to build, because Reddit, while it's great, is also the Wild West of forums and the internet. It's not easy to navigate. There are people posting promotional content. There are ads. It's kind of all over the place.
And how credible is it? You have no idea who's offering these answers.
Right. And so we wanted to create a safer space for these forums, for these conversations to happen. And that was the original plan for Romy, was just to be this community space. And now we have that in addition to this AI. And so it's kind of both, right? You can go and just talk to Romy if you want, because sometimes it's easier to talk to a bot than to talk to a person, especially about embarrassing stuff. Like, oh my gosh, we have some interns who work for us at the university in college, and they're like, have these really embarrassing questions about things that happen during sex that they're like, I can't talk to my roommates about this. It's like, but you can ask a computer, right? You can kind of hide behind that anonymity. So you can talk to Romy about that stuff, or you can go in the forum. And what's cool about Romy is, as the forum and the community space starts to get built out, when you're talking to Romy, she'll actually be able to say, I see you asking about this. Let me point you to this thread in the community that might be helpful. And you can see what other women are talking about. So you're also not scrolling through and finding stuff yourself. Romy can kind of go through that community and point you in the right direction too. So you can hear what Romy has to say clinically and research wise. And then you can also hear anecdotally what the women in our community are saying too.
Are you tired of the endless battle with cravings? Do you dream of managing your appetite without the hassle, the side effects, or the hefty price tag?
Then it's time to meet Dr. Stephanie. She's not just a doctor of pharmacy. She's a certified diabetes educator and a leading hormone expert. She listened to your struggles and formulated a gentle, natural solution, GLP Wonder.
GLP Wonder is a revolutionary supplement designed for an easier path to appetite control and hunger management. How? It works by combining powerful natural ingredients like areocitrin and green tea extract to naturally support your body's own GLP-1 levels. This signals fullness to your brain, curbs those persistent cravings, and even helps fight insulin spikes, that stubborn, fat-storing hormone.
The result? Reduced hunger, better appetite control, and a more natural way to stay on track with your diet and goals. It's effective, it's safe, and it's affordable. Just 1 capsule per day for powerful results.
GLP Wonder is now easier than ever to find. Look for Dr. Stephanie's GLP Wonder at Walgreens, CVS, and Walmart. And we are thrilled to announce that you can now find it in Target stores nationwide.
Stop waiting and start winning the fight against cravings today. Find your nearest store, or to learn more and shop the full Dr. Stephanie's collection, visit drstephanies.com. And for a limited time, use code GOLDIVY30 for 30% off all Dr. Stephanie products at drstephanies.com.
So it sounds to me like Romy is a place that people can feel safe. They can feel like they can ask anything. They feel like they can get information. They've got the answers to get into, or the questions they can ask to get in the physician's office and feel comfortable. To me, it kind of feels like you said, like a companion, like someone kind of being alongside with you, along with everybody else that's in it, that's asking similar questions or thinking the same things that maybe they thought they were all alone on. Because I know that this, when I think about Brooke's health a lot, I think a lot of times like, and it's going to make me emotional, but it's like, I feel like she probably feels really alone. Like it's so isolating when you're having all these health issues and nobody else around you is having them. And so I want to talk about that piece of like helping people feel less isolated in this journey. So how big of a piece of the puzzle is that with you creating Romy?
Yeah, I mean, whether it's chronic illness, autoimmune stuff, or just kind of more common, issues with the reproductive system that we deal with, but they don't necessarily feel common. All of that is lonely in a really specific way. You're suffering, but the suffering is often invisible, and the
Yeah.
people around you may not fully get it, right? And there's a particular loneliness, I think, that comes from spending years being told nothing is wrong when everything feels wrong.
Hmm.
And so, what we really wanted to build into Romy from the very beginning was the feeling that you are not the only one, that there are thousands of women out there who have that same Tuesday at 2 a.m. that you're having. Um, Also, the like privacy first design matters here a lot, where women need to be able to feel safe sharing what's actually going on without worrying that their data is being used against them or shared without their consent. And so
Yeah.
we thought really carefully about how to create a space for this community and for this connection without it feeling like you're being exposed or feeling overly clinical. This isn't, just a forum like a Reddit. It's more like a conversation with someone who gets it, and hopefully a lot of other people who get it, anchored in real information that points you to others who've also been there.
That's so wonderful. I think about fertility too, and just a lot of people don't
Oh,
want to share. They're not ready to share. They eventually will share, but they're at that point of like just trying to navigate, figure out our bodies. And so I'm just so
it's so
grateful.
it's all of this could be so emotional, right? It's not
Yeah.
just the health journey, of course, is physical, but it takes a toll, right? It has, whether it has a stigma, whether it's embarrassing, whether it's confusing, it's something that we all at one point in our lives are navigating alone. And then to feel like we have a better support system around us, I think is incredibly freeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a built-in best friend.
Yeah.
Me and Romy over here, I'm already not lonely because I just need someone, keep going, sweetie. Like, even if Romy could just offer a little encouragement of like, no, you're on the right path. Now, we talked a lot about like the doctor's appointments and the data and stuff. Will Romy offer like lifestyle change recommendations, supplement recommendations, like based on your symptoms, I think you should go to bed at 9:30 instead of 10:30, or like things like that maybe users don't need to necessarily book a doctor's appointment, but could start taking action in those ways?
Absolutely. Yeah. And her language is going to be very careful, right? We have to be legally very careful with the way that she says things, right? She's not going to say, you should do this, right? Because we're not giving medical advice. We are not a substitute for medical advice. But Romy is going to be your partner in crime in all of this. She's going to collaborate with you and help you, because a lot of times, even those of us who have like great health insurance, for example, I live in Madison, Wisconsin, where I'm surrounded by doctors and hospitals. And I just, called to try to get in to see the ENT. And the soonest they can see me is August. I'm like, well, I need to do something before then. And so that's where Romy, I think, can be really helpful, that sort of in between care. She can kind of help fill those gaps. And so, absolutely, if you want to ask Romy, you can say to her, for me right now, this is so crazy. I've spent the last year of my life building this app for women with endometriosis and PMOS and PMDD, right? And the whole time I didn't know until 2 months ago, I just got diagnosed with PMOS,
Oh,
which is crazy. And Romy's actually the one who suggested it. Uh, then I went and I got the testing, and I do in fact have it. And so what she'll do is, like, I could type into Romy right now, I could say, I just got diagnosed with PMOS. What can I do to change my diet to really help manage my symptoms? You can say, design an entire 6-week eating plan with recipes that are going to help combat the insulin resistance that I have as part of this condition. And she can do.
dang.
If people weren't sold enough to download Romy, I think that right there just really
Yeah,
nailed
and you
the
can say to
coffin.
her, what supplements do people find beneficial in managing PMOS, or right, whatever the condition may be. And she'll be able to say, we have research on this, and we have research on that, and you can experiment with X, Y, or Z. And it's cool too, because a lot of us, like I was saying earlier, if we can't get in to see a doctor for 3 months, we can message usually in a My Chart kind of
Yeah.
situation with a nurse or whatever. And you can say, hey, I'm wondering if I try this. And you can kind of run it by your doctor. And they might be like, yeah, great, try that for 3 months. Because then, as we know too, it takes 3 months for anything to sort of prove itself,
Yeah.
right? A new supplement, a new medication, a new way of eating, a new exercise regimen. You kind of have to give everything, 10 to 12 weeks to be like, is this working or not?
Yeah.
And so when you're in that waiting period before you actually see the doctor, it's kind of a great time to do that experimenting. And Romy can absolutely collaborate with you on that.
Yeah, or even just my experience with functional medicine, it's expensive. So in the interim, while I do believe like tests don't guess, but sometimes paying $300 for an appointment just isn't feasible. And you do need some things to support you in the interim until you can see the doctor or save up for the functional tests, whatnot. So I think this is really encouraging and empowering for individuals. Like, you don't have to stay stuck just if you can't afford the functional medicine.
Totally. Yeah. And functional medicine is very near and dear to my heart because I'm such a big believer that, like I said, I would never want to villainize doctors or the Western traditional medical system, right? We're doing the best with what we can. I really believe that. But I do also believe that there's so much more we can all be trying and doing. I'm such a big believer in like Eastern, medicine, acupuncture and herbal supplements and tinctures and things like that. And then on the functional side of things, where like just lab ranges are much smaller than they are in traditional medicine, right? And so that was really important to me when we were building Romy, was I wanted to make her more of a functional medicine guide as opposed to, really traditional. And it's tricky, right? Because we have to go off of, she pulls from PubMed, which is aggregates all of the currently published research essentially out there. And a lot of that research is based on traditional Western lab ranges and things like that. But she is able to pull in, we've built out this repository of functional medicine knowledge for her that she can pull from too. Which I really appreciate, because then ideally you're getting kind of this whole picture answer from her as opposed to just something you're going to get on WebMD or something you're going to get from a more traditional chatbot.
Wow. I'm so glad you called that out, because that's just what we're looking for.
I love it. It feels like a full picture of health. It feels like the full answer, because it's not one versus the other. It's not Eastern versus Western, right? It's like, how do we take all the information that we have that's healed people in different ways, bring it together? So I'm just so grateful and excited for Romy to see what she can do, in our lives. And I know everybody's going to know how to get Romy. I'm assuming it's just App Store, Romy.
Yes.
Download.
Yeah, you can type in Romy Health, I think is the easiest way to search for it on the App Store, and it can come up, and I'll of course send you both the links you can share with users. But yeah, she's there, she's live. The other thing to mention too is, she's really new and we are a very lean, agile team. And so if your community is up for it and wants to try her out, we would love feedback, on things that you all like or things you don't like or features you'd like to see, or, hey, this actually didn't, this didn't generate the report the way I wanted it to, or whatever. We would love to know that, because we can be really quick on our fixes right now. And we want to make her the best experience for everyone as quickly as possible. And so we need as many users to kind of help us do that.
I love that.
I'll give you my feedback. Don't you worry.
Please do.
Oh, it's so exciting. Well, awesome. Well, as you know, Molly, we have 3 more segments to our show. The first one is your 3 gold stars. So if you could give your 3 top takeaways for listeners, what would they be?
My 3 top takeaways for your listeners. I think is that first one that I said is, utilize the tools that we have at our fingertips right now, whether that's, AI, whether it's my chart and your team of doctors, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, like, let's just use it all so that we can be our own advocates and we can do our own research and we can help kind of learn from each other and hopefully push women's healthcare to that next level and get research where it needs to be and just get care in a better spot.
I love it.
That's that first one. The second one, the advocacy piece, I think is huge, right? Whether it's really just thinking about how you can best advocate for yourself or women as a whole. I think we still have, like I said, women were not included in studies until 1993. The data even on heart attacks, for example, was done those studies were done primarily on men. And so symptoms of women having a heart attack are way harder to recognize because they were not part of the study, or only a few of them were. So like even just generic, conditions that affect both men and women, women's bodies just are not being studied the way that they need to. And so getting out there and paying attention to that legislation and to the research that may or may not be happening, I think is so important. And, being part of that conversation and pushing for change there is huge.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. Okay. My question for our next segment, Unleashing Ivy, is so someone starts downloading her right away, right now. You're using her for the first time. What advice would you give that user? Like, where do they start with her?
That's a great question. So like I said earlier, I mean, you can kind of decide how you want to use her. Do you want to be a Romy power user? And do you want her to be your pocket bestie who knows everything about you and your body and your health? Or do you want her to just be somebody who can answer questions for you kind of on the fly as things come up? So if it's the latter, that's great. You just pop in and use her whenever you want. Ask your questions. Ask Jeeves. That's such an old reference. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
We were just talking about it. Funny.
So you can use her like that, and that's really easy. But if you really want her to like kind of replace your Aura ring, right? Or be your whole dashboard and see all your health in one place, I think it's great to sit down with, a glass of wine or whatever, and just start talking to her and be like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I've been dealing with. Here's what I've tried. Here's what's worked. Here's what hasn't worked. And she will start asking questions back to you. She'll ask what supplements you're on, what medications you're on, how many hours you sleep a night, what kind of activity you do physically, anything. And you can just go back and forth and have that conversation with her, and she will just build out everything. And all of a sudden you'll check your health log and you'll be like, oh my God, it's all here.
So will she save... Like I'm thinking like ChatGPT, like when I type, it recognizes and it remembers these supplements or these things I've talked about in the past, but does Romy keep it in like a separate doc, or is it then I save it from her and have to like store it somewhere else? And does that make sense?
You've got a whole dashboard that you could go to within her. So if I pull her up right now, let's see if I could even just show you this. So on the left side here, we've got this health button, and it's essentially this whole health profile here where she's got everything about you. This is like your dashboard of your whole body. She's got your sleep, your cycle, your mental symptoms, your regular symptoms, treatments you're on, nutrition, activity. You can record intimacy. You can put your vitals in there. She has a whole section called worth noting. For me, it's the ritual magnesium bisglycinate that I'm taking might actually be worsening my pelvic pain. Like, she wants me to know that. Right? Then she has a section for suggestions. She says things like, log a few more sleep entries so that I can better detect your trends. She's also got a health heat map. She's got your cycle here. She's got the check-ins that you've set up for push notifications, what she's checking in on. You can record health goals in here, and then all your documents that you've ever generated, whether it's a provider packet, whether it's a letter to your health insurance company, trying to get them to cover a treatment that you want to get covered, any plans, if she's put together a diet for you, if she's put together a workout program for you.
This is
she's also got your full health symptom profile here as well. So it's all just here. She's got insights, recent activity, it's all in one spot.
All in there.
Oh my
and
gosh,
does she sync with Aura or
So
Apple
right now
Watch?
We are not synced with the Aura API, but we are working on that partnership.
Love it.
Ooh, I have a feeling they're going to be besties. Is Romy free?
Yes,
Romy's free.
Wait, what? I'm like, how do I budget $100 a month for this?
Completely free to
Molly,
the user.
This is insane in the best way possible.
It's too important. Women need this too much. We cannot limit her access to the people that can afford it.
I am obsessed.
You're an angel.
Because again, going back to how expensive getting healthy and being healthy and staying up to date is, like, that is the biggest financial, or the biggest stressor for me is the financial piece. So you're doing the Lord's work. I appreciate it.
I love it. Okay. My unleashing Ivy question is going to take a little bit of a left turn, just to get to know you a little bit better, because our listeners don't know you well in your personal life. And I know that you have a great marriage and 2 adorable children and a wonderful family and a fitness routine, and you guys travel. Like, you have a lot going on. And now I just learned more about your health and what you're managing. And so I want to know, what are maybe your 3 non-negotiables? It could be literally anything that helps you thrive and be able to like manage and carry all that you carry.
Good question.
Such a good question. My non-negotiables are sleep. I really cannot overstate the importance of at least 7, ideally 8 hours of sleep a night, even if it means I get my kids to bed and there's no time left in the night. I just got to get to bed. It's not the most fun or glamorous thing, but my symptoms across the board, whether it's PMDD, whether it's PMOS, whether it's my cortisol spiking, all of it, even the way that I eat throughout the day is completely determined by how I sleep at night.
Yep.
And so that's absolutely my first non-negotiable. My second is really nutrition and just being mindful. I don't want to be one of those people that's no fun, right? And it's just like, oh, I can't eat that. I can't have this. I don't do sugar. I don't do gluten, whatever. But I do know how crappy food makes me feel crappy.
Yeah.
And it
You're more fun if you have the healthy food.
Right? Yes. Yes, you really are. You think more clearly. You just feel better. You don't feel so sluggish. Your clothes fit better. You look better. When you look good, you feel good. Your skin looks better. The nutrition thing, I've gone through periods over the last few years where it's just felt really hard to manage. Right after having a baby, it can just feel overwhelming to be cooking for yourself or whatever. But finding the things that work, right now, I know that the way that my insulin resistance works is if I don't get protein first thing in the morning, my whole day is kind of thrown off, and it's really important for me to do that. But I'm getting 2 little ones out the door first thing in the morning. And so I found these bars called Prime bars that's got 20 grams of protein, and I throw 2 scoops of Vital Proteins in my coffee. And between those 2 things, which take 3 seconds, I've got my protein and I'm good. Is it a whole food? No, right? I don't have time to sit down and eat 3 eggs and chicken sausage and an English muffin and fruit first thing in the morning. That would be great, but that's not going to cut it. So also identifying, while nutrition is super, super important, understanding, finding the things that work for you with your lifestyle. And if you need to cut corners a little bit here and there, that's okay. We can't be perfect all the time.
Right.
But trying, as much as possible to whether it's getting the protein or whether, getting a lot of fiber is going to be really helpful, or not, for me, I had to cut out caffeine 1.5 years ago, and I just switched to decaf. That's okay.
Yeah. Are you still caffeine free?
I am.
That's impressive.
Wow.
Maybe Romy will convince me to finally give up my caffeine addiction. We're close. We're getting there. Okay. And your third?
Okay. And my third, so I said sleep and diet, and my third is prioritize having fun.
It's good.
It is so easy, working in anyone's line of work, in anyone's day-to-day lives, right? You turn on the news, you look at your social media, you look at what's happening in the world, or you look at the bad stuff that is happening in AI, right? There's a lot of it that's really scary. People are doing scary things with AI, or, we're all being poisoned by microplastics and blah, blah. You could really be super depressed all the time if you wanted. And you could also really look at life as kind of a slog. Having toddlers is not for the faint of heart, right? I could be really stressed out all the time.
And aren't they a year apart too?
Yeah, they are. They're very close in age, which I love. I wouldn't have it in. They're besties. Yeah. But now they're ganging up on me.
As toddlers.
Also, fun fact about Molly, we'll get back to this fun thing. You and your husband have the same exact birthday.
Actually, he's New Year's Eve and I'm New Year's Day.
Okay. I knew it was something like that. That's so fun. Okay. Fun facts. Okay. Back to fun.
Yes. But so really, I always say the secret to things going well in my life or me looking like I have it all together or whatever, because people will say like, oh, how do you do it? Whatever. And it's like, I'm just having more fun than you are. And I'm making it a priority because fun is not always easy.
What do you do for fun?
Are you guys best friends? You guys should hang out. Brooke is so obsessed with sleep. She is so like determined to have her food on point so she doesn't feel like crap. And all we try and do is have more fun, just trying to have more fun. I feel like you guys are like, I mean, I love these things too, but I feel like you guys are like besties.
We're very simpatico.
Yes.
No,
what do you do for fun?
well, like for us, it's really fun to travel with our kids. And as I'm sure you can imagine, getting ready to travel with kids and traveling with kids, not easy.
Yeah.
But you got to do the work. You got to pack the bags and pack the baby monitor and the sound machine and the, million changes of clothes and the diapers and all of that, or the pull-ups or whatever, and get them on a plane. And, my whole philosophy now on the plane thing is, like if you don't have noise canceling earphones in 2026, that is your problem, not mine.
Amen.
Like we're just doing it. We're going to get through the flight and we're going to get to where we're going and we're going to have a blast. Like my kids love to explore the world, and Carl and I love to explore the world. And, we love, like, our favorite thing is going out to breakfast on the weekends, getting up and hitting a new breakfast place and finding the best pancakes in town. Or there's this place called the Jet Room on the east side of Madison that is a breakfast spot attached to the private airport. And they've got floor to ceiling glass windows. You can sit and eat your pancakes and drink your coffee while you watch planes come in and land and take off.
Very
and
cool.
River, my son, is like pressed up against the glass the whole time. I'm like, eat your pancakes. But like, we just try to do fun things like that, or, making time. Like, realistic, I don't have time to do a lot of the things that I do, but you have to make the time. Like, I love to play tennis. I love to go, out for a drink with girlfriends and, you just got to make it happen. And I'm lucky too that I have a partner who likes to also have fun and knows that I'm more fun if I'm having fun. And so he'll hang out with the kids, or, you know.
And you guys also prioritize outdoor activities, which I think really helps with your mental health. Like, I saw you post something about Carl, just like letting them get in the mud and splash in the rain. And like, you guys take them skiing, and like, you're doing a lot of things, I think, that are active and with your kids, but you're also outside a lot, which I think probably plays into being able to have fun and have a better mental health for your whole family.
I mean, I think we all know, this, I can't even believe this is emerging research, but I think we've all known for a long time, sunlight just makes us feel better, right? It's like they say, wake up in the morning and reset your circadian rhythm with 5 minutes of actual daylight. It doesn't even have to be sunny out, but you don't get the same effect from, standing in your house through a window or driving in your car. You have to actually be outside. So in this new build house of ours, I'm really excited because we're putting in an in-ground trampoline in the backyard.
Oh my gosh.
And I think it'll be really fun this summer to get up and take the kids out and be like, first thing in the morning, we're getting our sunlight, we're jumping on the trampoline, and we're getting some lymphatic drainage, jumping, and, just getting some energy out right before camp and school and all that.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, you think about stress and how just that negatively impacts everything. So for fun to be one of your non-negotiables, I think it's brilliant, and it can be free. Like, it doesn't have to be traveling the world or spending all this money. Like, the things you listed are things that you don't really have to see a doctor for. They're things you can start prioritizing today. You feel better when you sleep. You feel better when you eat better. And when you're having fun, your cortisol is lower, your stress hormone. So that's great advice for everyone. I'm curious, last question. If you could go back, tell younger Molly one thing, what age would you choose and what would you tell her?
Okay, this is maybe going to be a little controversial.
Let's hear it. I like it.
If I could change one thing, I would go back to 15-year-old me or my mom and be like, do not let this 15-year-old go on birth control.
Oh.
Get her an IUD, right? Like, she's going to start having sex. So it's really important that she's protected, right? Like, but like, I was one of those teenagers that I benefited. Certainly, I think I had, some acne in high school, right? That was the guise that I went on birth control. I said to my parents, well, I really need to do this for my acne, right? But I was getting into it also, as teenagers do.
Love the honesty.
And that's the thing, right? Like, Carl and I, my husband and I, have talked about this with our daughter. We want to be really open about sex and all of that stuff.
Your toddler?
Yeah, well, I mean, when she's a teenager, not right now.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, backtrack.
Yeah. But we've had these conversations because they're finding now there is a lot of emerging research that hormonal birth control, the pill specifically, can really do a lot of long-term damage for women's bodies, whether it's messing up the gut microbiome, whether it's kind of screwing with your hormones. Because, for example, like when you're in your teens, that's when your body is almost like, finalizing is the wrong word, but it's establishing your bone density for life. And if you are synthetically adjusting your estrogen at that time, your bone density is not going to get where it needs to be.
Wow.
And that's going to cause things later in life, brittle bone disease, osteoporosis. It's going to make it harder when you're trying to build muscle at the gym.
I'm getting osteoporosis. Put that on the list.
I have carpal tunnel right now. That's like hormonal carpal tunnel. That's a thing, guys.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's something where, I would go back and I would say, find a different method for that. I don't think I would let my teenage daughter go on the pill right now. I think and that's not for any like, oh, I don't want her having sex or whatever. That's a whole other conversation. But like, if she feels like for whatever reason, she needs some kind of birth control method as a teen, I would do a lot of research into what's going to be the least, what's going to affect all these other systems in her body long-term in the least harmful way.
And this is where Romy comes in. This is
I was just going to
circle.
say that. Yeah, because I mean, back then they didn't have that information, right? Like I had terrible cramps, like debilitating. And the answer was you go on the pill and it helped. Like for that time, it made such a difference. But now we have Romy, we have this information of what long-term use of the pill is doing, where we can look into alternatives of like, okay, this doesn't have to be the only answer and the go-to answer.
And for the record, I say that that's controversial just because the whole emerging research on the pill thing is very new and there are a lot of doctors who would be probably really mad at me for saying that, because the pill certainly has benefits, right? It can be great in certain situations and for certain people, but that's where I get a little more like, I think some people would probably categorize my personal approach to health and wellness as more on the woo-woo side or the functional side. But, because like Romy probably would, give you the latest research on the pill, which is that it's really safe. It's really effective.
And like you said, too, like you're also focusing on, let's create this norm of changing legislation so we can have more studies. And I feel like Romy is part of that puzzle of like, let's have more support on what we don't know, what we're trying to find out. What kind of studies do we need more of so that we have that information?
And that's really the goal. And that's why we're able to keep this free to users, is because the more users we have and the more essentially what we're doing is we are building the first ever and largest data set of women's lived experience data. Because if the research organizations and medical institutions are not going to go get it themselves, we can hear from women what's actually happening. What is it like when you have a Mirena IUD? What is it like when you're on the pill? What is it like going through, and getting diagnosed with endometriosis or PMOS? And we can use that data to then take to institutions and say, look, we've got tens of thousands of women having this conversation. We can prove to you how important this is and hopefully further that research along.
Oh, you'll be hearing from me. But what I hope from like what motivates me, yes, is to like do this to better help myself. But also I hope that all of this data gives you enough data to be able to change medical school, that maybe doctors have to take more than 1 hour of nutrition, that maybe the norm becomes every doctor has both functional and Eastern and Western approaches, like why does it have to be one or the other? And that's my biggest fight, is like the things that made the biggest difference was not what insurance covered. And that sucks. And so being able to access Romy that's free is building this data. And I hope that it just keeps changing things from the bottom up.
Same.
Well, Molly, this has been so much fun to talk to you about this. It's really exciting. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but we're really excited about Romy and just learning more about it. I mean, we just scratched the surface of what she's going to be capable of. And like you said, it's evolving. The more women that are in this, the more we can give feedback on what we need and see that this is really something that can be our companion in the process of figuring out as our health is evolving constantly too with our hormones, having this person along the ride. I'm just so grateful that you and Emily have, jumped into this pool of AI because we need you. And I love that you said, like, women need to be a part of the AI boom so that we're not left behind again. And I'm so happy that you said that and grateful that you're doing this work. And we're so happy to support it and excited for our listeners. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's so fun to talk to people who are equally passionate about this and so supportive. It really means so much to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we leave every episode with a quote, something we call a piece of gold. Would you please sign us off today with your gold?
Yes, with my gold. Okay. My quote would be, for the first time in history, we have AI that gives us the ability to actually synthesize years of symptoms, cycles, labs, treatments, and patterns at scale, which is especially important in women's health, where patients are often dismissed as overly complex. And now is the time to take advantage of this.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your Romy. We want to thank you and encourage you to celebrate yourself for taking the time to learn and get inspired in your one beautiful life. And if this podcast means something to you, it would mean so much to us if you'd be willing to take 30 seconds to help support our mission to keep bringing you inspiring stories and guests.
First, following the podcast is important because it helps you never miss an episode. To do this, just go to the Ivy Unleashed podcast show page on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And then just tap the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner or click on follow.
While you're there, if you'd be so kind to give us a 5-star rating and review and share your favorite episode with a friend, we'd be so grateful for your support.
We are thrilled you're here and are so happy that you're taking time to prioritize your wellness, self-discovery, and growth with us. Additionally, we want to remind you that this podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We are not licensed therapists, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals.